Hey y'all, Steve Ritter here, Phyllis Stokes' son. It's been a little while since I've filmed or done anything, and I was kind of tied up working on my private pilot's license, so I just got to have my check ride Friday passed, and so now I can come back to focusing a little bit on this and doing some of this. So we're still hunkered down like everybody else, but it looks like we're almost to the end of this. So I wanted to talk about is having all this time on my hands has let me read a little bit more now. And we watched Lonesome Dove a couple of weeks ago, and actually my son, my oldest boy, gave me the book Lonesome Dove for Christmas, and I'm finally getting to reading it. And I got to reading it. One of my favorite characters in the books is Augustus McCrae, Gus. And his big thing is he likes making biscuits. That's his big thing. And he has sourdough. And I had messed around a little bit with it a few years ago, but my oldest boy again, Nathan, really was into sourdough for a while there and kind of got me going with it. So I read that and kind of wanted to get back to it a little bit. And it's just so simple and easy. And I'm going to just show you today. Is a little bit of some stuff with sourdough. I'm going to make sourdough bread bowls today, so hopefully these will turn out okay. I've never made sourdough bread bowls. I've made sourdough bread and I've made sourdough biscuits, but I'm going to talk a little bit about sourdough first, and then I'm going to make the dough, and then we'll come back a few hours later and we'll let it rise, and eventually we'll get to the point where we're making bread bowls, because we're going to make some homemade soup tonight, and we're going to ideally, hopefully, cut it out and put the soup in the bread bowl. So got Bella on camera today, helping out a little bit. So I told Bella I wouldn't call her out or anything else, but so I won't. But first thing I want to talk about is sourdough. So one of the simplest things in the world, really. All this bread is flour and water and salt and starter. And I'm going to talk first about starter. So the first thing you need is some sort of non-reactive bowl, or well, not bowl, but some sort of container. So you're not looking for anything that's metal. This is some Polish pottery that my wife picked up on a shopping trip to Poland when we were stationed over there in Germany. It's just a ceramic little flour jar or whatever, and I use it for my starter. And all that you do is you put 2 cups of flour in there, and then I mixed 2 cups of water, actually probably a cup and a half, and then a half a cup, and then just regular old bread yeast. And I opened up the bread yeast. I put it in a little bit of water, started. I put just a little, like a half a teaspoon of sugar in it, mixed it up a little bit to help start it. When it starts bubbling up a little bit, then I mixed it in with the flour and the water, and then set it aside. Put the top on it, cover it up, and let it go. And after a couple of days, it'll start bubbling within not long afterwards. But basically, this is what they used back in the day, like going across the prairie or whatever. Is they would keep sourdough starter with them, and so you're making bread, you're making biscuits, and not using any milk. All it is water and flour and the starter. That's all. So you keep the starter going. The important thing, the last time I experimented with sourdough, I would make it and then set it aside, and then one of the byproducts is a little alcohol. So because it converts the sugars to alcohol. Again, that's kind of where beer comes from, I guess. But and I would in the past I would just skim that it's kind of a light brown liquid that forms on the top of it, and I would just skim that off and put it aside. What I've since learned, what I do now is every day or every other day, if I'm not using it to make anything, you just take a cup and take a cup of the starter out, pour it out, or use it to make something. But if you're not going to make it, just pour it out. And then put a cup of flour and a cup of water in there, mix it up into a paste, and off you go. and that's feeding your starter. So, Bill, if you want to take a shot in here. So this is what it looks like inside. So you can see it's not dry, it's liquid. You see the bubbles on top? You see that, Bella? Can you see it? I'll kind of get it in the light here so you can see. And that's from the yeast. What's that smell like? Can you smell it?
I don't know.
It's kind of a, it's not quite like when you put yeast in flour, like when you're making bread, you get that real yeast smell like you get from Barber, or not Barber's, from the bakery. It's more of a, it's kind of a sweet sour kind of smell. It's hard to describe, but that's how you know it's working. What you don't want to see is pink on the top. That's maybe some bad bacteria, but that light brown liquid on the top, and it'll smell a little more pungent with that. That's just a little bit of alcohol. You can skim it off, or you can just, if it's the next day, you can just take a knife and mix it back in, and it's fine. But that's where the sourdough taste comes from. Now, I use bread yeast to get it started. What some people will do is just put flour and water and then leave the top off and let it go for a couple of days. And there's yeast all over the place. There's yeast all around. I've heard of people, and the yeast will naturally fall on there, and you get that wild yeast. And some people swear by the flavors that come from that, and you really get the really delicious flavors from their sourdough. So, and then if you keep feeding it regular like that, stay on top of it every day, every other day, take a cup out, pour it out, put a cup of flour and a cup of water back in, mix it up, and you keep feeding it, and you'll keep growing that starter. So if you get that pink or red color in there, you're going to want to just dump that out because something bad got in there. Don't mess with that. So anyway, got our starter. What I'm going to do now, it's again a real simple recipe. I got 5 cups of all-purpose flour, or you can use bread flour. That's fine. Don't mess with the self-rising because we're not gonna need it. So it's just regular all-purpose flour, and all I'm going to do is and I'm going to use my starter, and I'm going to take a cup here, and I'm going to get in there, and I'm going to get a cup of starter, and I'm going to mix it in. So again, I'm not using see how it's kind of a, I mean, it looks like really heavy buttermilk, but it's the starter. Now, one thing when you're using your starter, you want to be careful you need to make sure you leave some in there, and whatever I take away here, I'm going to make sure that I replenish my starter, because if you take it all out, you're going to be in a you're going to use it all up, and it won't come back. So let me get a spatula. I'm going to just kind of mix that up. I'm looking to I'm going to make a dough from this, and then we'll make a dough, and then we'll just set it aside and let it rise. It's about that easy. I'm looking to mix the starter in with the flour.
How much flour do you have?
I have 5 cups. 5 cups of just all-purpose flour or bread flour. Bread flour's got a little more protein in it, I think. That's what makes it different. So, and I'm going to just kind of, so I'll put a cup of starter in there. Now I can put, I think what I'm going to do, instead of not so much water, I think I'll put 2 cups of starter. That's what I'm going to do with this, because I really like to get this really rise in here. Get this out of all that goodness out of there, and then that'll be good for that for now, and then for the starter. And then if it's still, what I want to do is mix it until there's no dry flour left, and if it needs more, I'll just use water at this point. No milk, no eggs, no nothing. Now I'm going to use, eventually I'll get later, after the first rising, I'm going to use some salt, get some salt in there with a little bit more water. So it's starting to clump up now. I think I might need to go with a little bit of water here. We'll just kind of play it by ear and see. I'm gonna have to switch to my hands here so I can get a better feel. And just kind of keep scraping up, you know, all the dry. Let's go with about a half cup of water here. So 2 cups of starter, another half cup of water. Let's see how that works. Got a big storm coming in. It might look a little dark. Now, can you get inside here in the bowl and see what I'm doing? I know, hoping they're gonna open things back up and get you all back to school, huh? Last week I made some sourdough bread for the first time. I usually made the biscuits with the sourdough before, so that's my first time with the bread. It turned out pretty good. I was pretty happy with it. So, all right, so a little bit more water here. Let's go. That takes about up to a cup of water. 2 cups of starter, 1 cup of water. See how this works. So it's starting to kind of hold together now. See, we're looking for kind of a raggedy ball of dough. That's what we're looking for, not dry. Kind of mash it together, get it to come together. I usually get a little spooked when I see all the dry, and I just normally what I'll do is I'll keep adding water until it just gets to be kind of sloppy, and I add like too much water usually. So what they say is to. So my son found out about this sourdough that what's his name? Kent Rollins, I guess his name is. He's a big cast iron chuck wagon cook out west, out in Oklahoma. That's kind of where he got the idea with the. So I'm just kind of mashing this together, trying to get. So it's forming into a dough. Still, just a little more water, I think. So that's about a cup, and you know, you might use a little less flour, and the water might work out, or. You just kind of have to play it by ear. I'm looking for raggedy dough. But yeah, I was that's kind of was keeping busy. It's kind of a bucket list item for me to get back and fly. I flew airplanes in the Air Force, but never really flew private pilot at all, with, you know, just civilian flying. So that was kind of a new world for me. So this is still too dry. So that's about a cup and a.
It's about 2 cups.
That's about 2 cups, you think? Yeah, 2 cups of water. That's probably about right. I'm starting to see how it's kind of wet. I'm trying to get the rest of this flour here, and I think that might do it now. So we'll get this all mixed up, and I think this is going to do it. So maybe just shy, with this batch, just shy of 2 cups might have worked, but 2 seems to be fine. And even if it's a little wetter than you'd like, that's okay, because eventually you're gonna, it'll be okay. Just don't want a sloppy, soupy mess. All right, so I got it all over my hands here. So all I'm going to do now is cover this with some saran wrap, some plastic wrap, and set it in a cool or a warm place and let it rise. So that yeast is going to start, and from the starter, it's going to start acting on that flour, and the byproduct of that is carbon dioxide, and that's where it makes it puff up. So this will be the first rising. So just kind of a rough ball, and again, talks about having that's what it looks like. That's good enough. So a raggedy dough. So this is maybe just a touch too much water, but that's okay. So it holds together, but it's not soupy, sloppy. And I just kind of form it into a ball. I'm going to put a plastic cover or a clean towel over the top of this. And I'm going to put it up on top of our fridge there, where it seems to be a little warmer in that part of the house. We'll let it rise we'll take a look at it here in a couple hours, see what it looks like. So we'll be right back. All right, welcome back. So it's been about 2 hours now. One thing I forgot to talk about before I went ahead and fed the starter again. So I'll take a look at that. So this is what fed it. And you see all the bubbles and everything else. That's fresh flour for the yeast, and the yeast is the starter's going to town in there now. So, all right. So I'm gonna set that aside for later. That'll be biscuits another day. So 2 hours of dough's here. I've got 2.5 teaspoons of salt, and I use kosher salt. And I just kind of put that over the dough and just kind of fold it in here so it doesn't go flying off. I'm going to try something new here. At this point I would knead it, but I'm going to try it out in Mom's KitchenAid here, and it's got the bread hook on it. And lock it in. See how this works here. This is going to kind of knead the bread here a little bit. I don't know if we'll get up to ludicrous speed with this or not. That's going to work that salt in. And if the dough was a little raggedy, then I would add a little more water to it, but I think we're sitting pretty good now. It's sitting working very well, is it? All right, I'm going to declare failure with that. I'm sure some of y'all have better luck with this, but that's not kneading it the way I like it to. So, warts and all, show you what works and what doesn't. Right, Bella?
Right.
Right. All right, so let's take this back over here. So what I'm going to do is put this on the counter, dust the counter a little bit, and just knead it the old-fashioned way. So, I'm going through all my flour, so I'm going to have to put some more in here. So I got some all-purpose flour. Just all we're going to do is just knead this in really good for a few minutes, and all I'm doing is just kind of folding it over, working it in, folding it back, pushing it away. That's all kind of techniques. That's just kind of what works for me. And this really gets the gluten going. And obviously, if you got a gluten allergy, then this is not for you. So, and just get a good little workout here. I have to figure out that KitchenAid mixer, man. That thing.
I think it's more for cookies.
Maybe that's what that is. Still trying to figure all these attachments out. So there's 4 of us. We're gonna make these bread bowls. Got 5 cups plus whatever extra flour goes in it, plus the starter. And I think what we'll eventually do is is take this lump of dough and make 4 little balls that hopefully will rise and make bread bowls and be able to cut the tops off and put soup that we're going to make in there. So, did I tell you what happened to me yesterday?
What?
Or the other day, Bella, on my check ride?
What?
So, I was a little nervous about it, and because I hadn't had a check ride in a long time, you know, so, and I never had a civilian one, so I didn't know what to expect, so we had to fly from our local municipal airport here. We had to fly over to Somerville Airport for the check ride. So me and my instructor hop in the plane and we fire it up, all the pre-flight and everything. I'm ready to go, and there was this family standing over there watching us, and it's just getting ready to go, and I look over and the guy goes, oh, like that, puts his arms up, which is stop. That's what marshalers do, and that lets you know, hey, stop. And he starts walking over, and my instructor goes, well, I wonder what he's doing. And as he's walking over, I'm going, oh no, I know what he's doing. I had all the tie-down ropes, the ropes that you tie the airplane down with. Mm-hmm. I had left the one on the tail tied up.
Daddy.
So, no. So I'm like, oh man. So he goes, oh, you left the rope. And I'm like, oh man. And the guy goes, well, I'll get it for you. So he untied it. So we're taxiing out. I'm like, well, I guess what would have been pretty self-evident when I tried to taxi. I'm like, man, it's taking a lot of power and we're not moving. So it's like, you know, when you tie a boat up to the dock, it's the same thing. And anyway, so I'm like, well, you always make one bonehead mistake, so maybe that was my one for the day. So ended up not being. I made several, but nothing that was unsafe. But all right, so I'll work this in really good now. I'm gonna have to. How long's that been? Getting a good workout here. Folding it over and kneading it in. All right, now it's going to go back in the bowl. I'm going to just use the same bowl. Take a little vegetable oil and just coat it in here. Form it into a ball. Kind of run it in here and coat the dough, and we'll cover it back up again and let it rise for another hour. Okay, so we'll do this. I'll cover it, put it back up again, give it another hour, and then we'll check back in again. Hey, welcome back. All right, so we've let this rise for another hour or so. If you look inside here, you can kind of see, you know, see these little things. You can see where the air inside's kind of coming up now. So you can kind of push on it and it comes back. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this out. I've got a sharp knife and I'm going to cut these up into where there's 4 of us. So I'm going to cut these up into 4 individual. The goal is to make sourdough bread bowls. So I'm going to cut these up into 4. First thing I'm going to do though is I'm going to take probably just a smidgen of, how much is a smidgen? I don't know. But I've got when I'm going to cook the bread bowls on here, I'm going to put this pan, I'm going to kind of just grease this pan just so it won't stick to it. So I'll put that down. I just use some Crisco to coat this, and this is just a stone pan that we use. We got this Pampered Chef stone pan here, so just kind of put that in there like that, and we'll cut the dough up into 4 balls that hopefully I can get looking like bread bowls. just kind of eyeball. You know, it might be easier just trying to get all about the same amount of dough. Cut in half there, and then cut that in half. That should work out pretty good. And just kind of shape it a little bit. I'm just kind of folding it in on itself to kind of make the ball. Fold it way in and make a ball out of it. See how that looks. Because I want to, you know, ideally I want to get it smooth on the outside so it looks good, you know, kind of nice and round. We'll kind of cut the top and cut out a core out of the middle of it so that it'll, you could put soup in it. That's the idea. Like you get it Panera Bread or some of those places, you know. There's probably other places that do it too. That's the place we know is Panera Bread that does the soup bowls, which I always get a big kick out of because, you know, how often do you get to eat your you know, plates and bowls, you know? You know what I'm saying? I'm going to kind of stagger these a little bit because I'm going to let it rise. I'm going to put it on here and I'm going to let it rise just a little bit longer because that yeast inside from the starter is still, it's got a nice little kind of sour smell to it like sourdough does. I'm going to let it rise just a little bit longer. I'm going to cover it again, let it rise just a little bit longer, and then we'll put it in the oven and cook it. So cover it. Try not to waste this, but that's got to be one of the hardest things in the world is unwrapping saran wrap after it's kind of crinkled up. That's like, you can solve that problem, you can do about anything. So all right, we'll come right back here in just a few minutes. We'll let this rise just a little bit longer and then we'll come right back and put it in the oven. All right. All right, welcome back. So we let it sit for a little while. Now look, I'll truth and honest video making here. I would, the longer you let it sit, the more it's going to rise. The last time I made sourdough bread, I let it rise. We went out driving around, I think last week. So it sat for 6 hours. It really rose. So the longer you let it sit, the better. Okay, so I'm a little pressed for time because we got to get dinner on the table. So hopefully when we start cooking, this will rise more. I don't know if this might end up just being sourdough rolls. I don't know how much of a bowl it's going to be, but once you put your bread in here, you got your sharp knife, and you just want to put a little cut across the top. This nice little, just small little X, just so you can kind of control where you want it to split. And then the last thing I want to do before I put it in the oven, I've got it at 425 and we'll bake it. We'll put it in there for about 30 minutes. So I'm going to just sprinkle a little bit of water over the top just to kind of soften the skin of the bread a little bit so that it'll let it expand a little bit as it cooks and not split. So I'll just sprinkle a little water on there. Yes, my hands are clean. And then this is going to go in a 425 oven. We'll watch it as it starts browning, but what I'm going to do, the next thing when we come right back, I'm going to have an egg white wash, and I'm going to paint the outside of the bread bowls because I want it shiny and it'll help hold the soup more. It's kind of the thought there. So I'm going to try that and see how that goes. So we'll be right back. All right, welcome back. So the bread bowls have been in for about 20 minutes now. So I'm looking at them, they're coming along fine. So come around here, Bella, look at this so you can see. One of them was looking a little sketch there, that one on the end, but you see the steam coming off of the bread there? So I'm going to go ahead and pull these out, and I'm going to go ahead and give them a good egg white bath. So they're starting to kind of brown up. gonna go ahead and do that now. And I'm I just got 2 eggs, just with the egg whites, and I'm gonna just paint the tops because I want a nice golden glossy brown. So I think they're gonna help hold the soup in. So, and they look pretty too. So, and I'll just paint the top with these egg whites. And then they'll go right back in for probably another 20 minutes or so. We'll keep an eye on them close. This one might end up just being well, it'll probably still work. Now we'll see. Never give up on it, huh? Right, Bella?
Right.
Because, I believe in you, Bread. You can do it. You can do it.
Did you just talk to Bread?
I did. They gotta know. They gotta know that we believe in them and that he can do it. So I'm thinking I probably didn't need 2 eggs. I'm thinking probably 1 would have been fine. So I'll just paint the tops of them here, and I'm thinking maybe get the bottoms too, maybe? No. Put them in for another 20 minutes and go from there. But you can see how it's putting the split in there. You're kind of guiding it to where you want it to split, controlling it. So there's a good bat there. Let's put them back in. See, may not be pretty, but they're gonna taste good. All right, so back in for another 20 minutes and we'll be right back with the finished product. All right, so it's been another 20 minutes. We're all done, got the oven off, so we'll go ahead and take these out. See, so, oh yes. It's got can you kind of see the shine on it? Got a nice shine. So the thing with the bread is to let them sit for a little bit. Of course, they're going to keep kind of cooking on this stoneware thing. This one kind of ended up being a mess. Probably could salvage that, but the idea is you get a round enough shape, you can take a sharp knife and cut around and cut the core out of it, and then fill it with soup. So anyway, this is sourdough bread bowls, and we're going to put some soup in it that we made here in a second. But if you have any questions, put it in the comments section down below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. I got the recipe down below, but it's real easy. Flour, sourdough starter, and water, and a little salt. That's it. That's all there is to this. So works out real nice, and tastes even better. So hope you liked it. And in the meantime, this is the Colonel signing off. Over and out.